Onyx lunged forward with a force that almost tore the reins from Caleb's palms. His hooves struck the floor with a rhythm that gave the impression of thunder, his darkish eyes locked on something invisible to all people however him. Onyx, prevent. Caleb's voice was sharp, his breath catching as he dug his heels into the soft floor. But the pony's power became overwhelming, and before Caleb could plant his footing, Onyx surged beforehand, yanking the reins easy out of his grip. With a panicked lunge, Caleb threw himself forward and caught maintain of the reins again, but it became a mistake. Onyx became already charging, his powerful strides relentless. Caleb located himself being dragged along the damp earth, his boots skidding uselessly in the back of the horse. Onyx, damn it, forestall! Caleb shouted, his voice strained. Pain shot through his arm as the reins bit into his palms, but he refused to let cross. The horse didn't sluggish. Caleb changed into pulled off his toes entirely, his knees scraping the floor. He attempted to dig in his heels once more, however the muddy ground betrayed him. The International had become a blur of darkness and movement as Caleb gritted his enamel against the searing pain in his arms and legs. All proper, you cussed beast, Caleb growled, one half in desperation, one half in frustration. Gathering his electricity, he swung his leg over Onyx's side and hauled himself up onto the saddle, his body protesting every motion. It wasn't graceful. Caleb nearly lost his grip again as Onyx bucked barely, the pony's unmarried-minded dedication unbroken. However, he managed to settle onto the saddle, leaning forward to take hold of on the reins. You concentrate to me, Caleb yelled, yanking on the reins with all of the energy he should muster. You're going to prevent right now or so help me? But Onyx didn't concentrate. His ears flicked again in brief, acknowledging Caleb's presence. However, his consciousness remained on whatever unseen force drove him ahead. Caleb cursed beneath his breath, his fingers trembling as he tried to pull the reins tougher. Fine, have it your way, Caleb spat, throwing up his fingers in frustration. He clung tightly to the saddle as Onyx charged onward, the ponies each muscle straining with a reason Caleb couldn't yet apprehend. Lead me wherever you are going then, Caleb muttered through clenched enamel. His heart pounded as he gripped the saddle horn, bracing himself for whatever came next. Everything had commenced the morning before, while the mild sunlight filtered through the rows of trees surrounding the ranch. Onyx stood there close to the fence as regular, his sharp eyes constant on the sky above. Caleb changed into sporting a bucket of water while he noticed that Onyx wasn't just idly staring. There became something deliberate in his gaze, nearly as if the horse became analyzing something invisible to all people else. You're doing it once more, Onyx, Caleb muttered, putting the bucket down. He walked toward the horse, his weathered hand running alongside Onyx's smooth neck. But in place of relaxing beneath the familiar contact, Onyx remained rigid, his ears twitching, catching every faint noise in the distance. The low hum of an aircraft engine drifted nearer, then faded as the plane disappeared into the horizon. Caleb squinted in the same direction, following Onyx's unwavering gaze. For months, Caleb had been confused via Onyx's ordinary conduct. It wasn't just like the different horses who went approximately their workouts without a care. Onyx usually reacted, sometimes subtly, different times violently, to the sounds of airplanes passing overhead. Caleb had stated it to the ranch proprietor earlier then, but was met with nothing, however, a dismissive wave of the hand. He's only a touchy horse, the proprietor had stated with a smirk. You spend an excessive amount of time with him, Caleb. You're imagining things. Caleb didn't argue, however, nevertheless, part of him couldn't shake the feeling that Onyx wasn't only a touchy horse. Something about him changed into exceptional, special. Later that morning, Caleb became grooming Onyx while the acquainted roar of an engine reached their ears. Instantly, Onyx stiffened, his nostrils flared, and he let out a pointy, piercing neigh that startled Caleb so much he nearly dropped the comb in his hand. Whoa, whoa, smooth boy, Caleb said quickly, grabbing the reins to regular him. Onyx didn't relax. Instead, he yanked his head violently, pulling towards Caleb's company grip. What's gotten into you currently? Caleb muttered, glancing towards the route of the sound. Aircraft changed into starting up in the distance, but to Caleb, it appeared and seemed like any other day. Onyx stomped the floor with sufficient pressure to kick up small clouds of dust, his eyes blazing with a determination that made Caleb uneasy. You're acting like you have visible a ghost, Caleb muttered below his breath, shaking his head as he tightened his grip at the reins. That night, the stillness of the ranch changed into damaged. The air changed into quiet except for the hum of crickets in the fields, but Onyx changed into something however calm. He stood near the fence, his posture nerve-wracking, his head raised high as although he were a sentinel looking over the land. The distant rumble of an airplane engine sooner or later broke the silence, and the instant it did, Onyx erupted. The horse neighed loudly, his voice cutting through the night time like a caution bell. Caleb stumbled out of the house, hastily throwing on his coat as he ran toward the commotion. "Onyx, what's gotten into you this time?" Caleb known as, however, his voice faltered while he saw the pony's nation. Onyx was pulling on the reins with a power that Caleb had by no means seen before, his hooves pounding the floor as though seeking to shake off the restrictions keeping him back. "Whoa, loosen up, boy," Caleb shouted, grabbing preserve of the reins with each palms. But Onyx wasn't calming down. If whatever, his resolve appeared to harden. Before Caleb ought to consider what to do, Onyx yanked the reins so tough that Caleb was thrown off balance. The horse bolted, dragging Caleb along the damp floor. "Stop, Onyx, forestall," Caleb shouted, his voice tinged with panic. The reins burned against his fingers, and every muscle in his frame screamed in protest as he clung on for expensive lifestyles. The world blurred around him as Onyx's relentless price pulled him through grass, dust, and stones. "You damn cussed beast," Caleb growled, his enamel gritting against the pain shooting up his fingers. His knees scraped towards the earth, and his boots didn't locate any grip at the slippery floor. Desperate, Caleb made a break-up-second decision, summoning every ounce of electricity he had. He swung his leg over the horse's side and scrambled onto the saddle, his body aching as he adjusted his weight, his breath coming in shallow gasps. "All right, all proper, you win," Caleb stated via clenched tooth, pulling on the reins in a futile try to sluggish Onyx. The horse unnoticed him, his effective strides unrelenting. Caleb set free a annoyed groan and leaned forward, gripping the saddle horn tightly. "You'd hire be main me someplace important," Caleb muttered, his voice shaky with each anger and fear. Onyx galloped on, his focus sharper than ever, his frame shifting with a determination that Caleb had in no way seen earlier then. Whatever become riding the horse ahead, Caleb should experience it too now, a pull, an urgency that demanded they press on. "All right, boy," Caleb stated softly, his grip steadying as he adjusted to the rhythm of Onyx's stride. "Let's see wherein this takes us." Onyx thundered via the darkish, his hooves striking the earth in a continuing rhythm. Caleb clung tightly to the saddle, every muscle in his body tensed as the wind whipped past him. The horse wasn't slowing, his awareness locked on a few unseen vacation spot ahead. The silhouette of the airport's hangars loomed nearer, their shapes faintly seen beneath the faded glow of safety lighting fixtures. Onyx veered slightly, his route narrowing toward a smaller, remote hangar at the edge of the property. As they approached, Caleb's heart thudded against his ribs. Something wasn't proper. Shadows flickered near the plane parked simply outside the hangar. Caleb squinted, his eyes adjusting to the dim mild. There were 3 figures moving around the plane. They labored speedy, their movements sharp and planned. One crouched low by means of the touchdown gear, fidgeting with something Caleb couldn't make out, even as the alternative 2 stood watch, scanning the location with worried strength. "What the hell is that this?" Caleb whispered underneath his breath. Before he could method what he turned into seeing, Onyx let loose a piercing neigh that shattered the quiet night time. The sound ricocheted across the open space, freezing the men in their tracks. "Damn it, Onyx," Caleb hissed, yanking at the reins in a futile try and rein him in. But the horse became already surging forward, his powerful strides aimed without delay on the institution of saboteurs. "Who's there?" one of the guys barked, his voice laced with panic. Onyx didn't forestall. His dark form barreled in the direction of them, his eyes blazing with an intensity that dispatched the guys scrambling. The man crouched near the plane dropped his device, the steel clang echoing ominously. "Run!" Certainly one of them shouted, shoving the alternative as they bolted toward the shadows. Caleb gritted his tooth, his hands tight at the reins as Onyx got here to an unexpected halt, his hooves skidding against the asphalt. The horse stood tall, his chest heaving as he let loose another sharp neigh. His body became located squarely between the aircraft and the course the men had fled, like a sentinel status protect. "Onyx, smooth boy," Caleb stated, his voice low and steady as he slid off the saddle. His boots hit the floor with a thud, his legs trembling from the adrenaline coursing via him. As Caleb approached the aircraft, his belly churned. The tool left behind by way of the saboteurs glinted under the hangar lighting fixtures, and something near the landing gear caught his eye. He crouched nearer, his fingers trembling as he reached out. It turned into a small tool, slightly visible against the dark metallic of the landing equipment. Wires snaked from its casing, coiling tightly across the mechanisms. Caleb didn't want to be an expert to understand it didn't belong there. "Good Lord," he muttered, backing away slowly. He fumbled for his phone, his fingers clumsy with panic as he dialed airport security. "There's a hassle at Hangar 7, he stated speedy when the decision connected. "I don't recognize what it's, Miles, but you want to send someone out right here now?" Onyx remained in location, his posture inflexible and his gaze fixed at the remote shadows in which the guys had disappeared. Caleb placed a hand on the pony's neck, feeling the tension in his effective muscle tissues. "You knew," Caleb murmured, a combination of awe and disbelief in his voice. "You always realize." Within minutes, the hum of engines broke the silence as airport security cars sped towards the hangar. Flashlights reduced through the darkness, their beams darting across the plane and the encircling vicinity. "What's happening right here?" one of the protection officials demanded, his hand resting on the holster at his hip. Caleb improved, his voice consistent despite the fear nevertheless coursing through him. "There's something on the touchdown tools. Looks like a bomb or sabotage. I don't understand precisely, however it's no longer purported to be there." The officials moved swiftly, cordoning off the region and radioing for a bomb squad. Caleb watched as technicians carefully examined the tool, their faces grim. "It's a timed explosive," one of them confirmed, his voice reducing through the annoying air. "This could have long passed off at some point of takeoff." Caleb felt his knees go susceptible, but he steadied himself via gripping Onyx's reins. The horse stood unmoving, his gaze unwavering as if he had been nevertheless keeping watch. Amid the chaos, a tall man in a tailored suit approached the scene. His presence changed into commanding, his sharp capabilities illuminated with the aid of the glow of the security lighting. Caleb recognized him without delay, Graham Kensington, a businessman whose name changed into synonymous with strength and effect. His eyes, aware of scrutinizing contracts and last high-stakes deals, now studied the pony with a combination of awe and curiosity. "Someone tell me what's going on here," Graham commanded, his corporation voice cutting through the tension within the air. Before all people could respond, a protection officer gestured closer to the hangar. "Mr. Kensington, it appears those guys have been tampering with the plane." Graham's gaze shifted from the hangar to the masked men now confined by the guards. "Tampering?" he asked, his tone sharp. "With my aircraft?" His voice carried a weight of authority that made even the wind seem to hesitate. He strode forward, his polished footwear clicking towards the concrete as he approached one of the guys. "You've got 5 seconds to tell me what you had been doing. If you lie," he brought, leaning barely nearer, "I'll recognize." The masked man stated nothing, but his eyes betrayed him. He became visibly anxious like a cornered rat. Graham became to the safety group, his instincts telling him there was more to this than met the eye. "I had a sense something wasn't right," he muttered, his voice a blend of misunderstanding and admiration. Before Graham may want to press similarly, some other protection shield got here rushing out of the hangar, his face pale. "Sir, we located something," the protect introduced breathlessly. "The landing gear has been sabotaged. If the aircraft had taken off, it might have been a disaster." The phrases hung heavy in the air, hitting every body like a physical blow. Passengers who were transferring about carefree minutes in advance now stood frozen, processing the chilling revelation. Graham grew to become slowly in the direction of Onyx, his piercing gaze fixed on the pony. "You knew, didn't you?" he murmured almost to himself. Onyx let out a low whinny as if in confirmation. Graham shook his head, nevertheless grappling with the enormity of what had simply passed off. "This horse," Graham stated subsequently, his voice heavy with gratitude, "stored our lives." He seemed over at Caleb, his expression softening. "And you notion he was just a regular horse?" As the tension in the hangar started to lift, one factor became clear to anybody: Onyx became no regular animal. He turned into something a great deal extra, a mother or father, a savior, and in that second, a hero. Minutes ticked via, the air nonetheless electric with the aftermath of what had nearly came about. Graham, now standing close to Onyx, ran a hand alongside the horse's sturdy neck, as even though seeking to unravel the thriller of what made him so first-rate. Before he may want to say a phrase, Onyx stepped forward, elevating his head high. The horse released a deep, resonant neigh that echoed through the hangar like thunder. Every head turned in the direction of him, drawn through the commanding sound. It wasn't just a whinny, it turned into a caution, a message nobody may want to ignore. Graham furrowed his brow, his sharp eyes scanning the hangar. Then he observed something. "Where's the opposite one?" he requested, gesturing towards the hangar. The guards exchanged careworn glances. Finally, one and every of them answered, "The different masked guy, he's gone." Onyx suddenly bolted closer to the alternative facet of the hangar, in which a row of crates became stacked haphazardly. The sound of something shifting stealthily echoed from that direction. Onyx stopped unexpectedly, his head tilted as he whinnied once more, his body taut like a predator ready to strike. "Over there," Graham barked, pointing towards the crates. The guards sprang into motion, fanning out to surround the area. A loud clatter of metallic falling to the ground made absolutely everyone leap. Behind the crates, the second one-masked guy attempted to escape, however changed into intercepted after only some steps. "Let me pass." "You don't understand," he shouted, struggling towards the defense grip. Graham approached, his expression unyielding. "What were you doing?" he demanded. "Speak." The guy hesitated, but as Graham stepped closer, his piercing stare broke the person's resolve absolutely. "There were explosives in the cargo preserve," the person confessed, his voice shaking. We desire to reason and twist of fate, however it didn't paintings." Silence fell over the group like a lead weight. Explosives? This wasn't just sabotage, it turned into a calculated act of destruction. Graham closed his eyes for a second, steadying himself in opposition to the rising anger threatening to overtake him. When he opened them, his gaze fell on Onyx, who stood steadfast, watching as though watching for the following chance to emerge. "If it weren't for him," Graham stated, his voice heavy with emotion, "we'd all be lifeless right now." Caleb, standing beside him, nodded silently as he stroked Onyx's neck. Onyx, ever composed, didn't circulate. It changed into as if he already knew his task right here turned into entire. The wind picked up, wearing the sharp heady scent of jet fuel and churned earth. The silence of the airport had been broken by using the chaotic sounds of urgent voices and moved quickly footsteps as security employees swarmed the region. Onyx, status tall in the center of the commotion, slowly grew to become his head, his ears twitching as though catching something nobody else should pay attention. Caleb held the frayed reins with trembling fingers, his personal nerves frayed from the night's occasions, but Onyx remained alert, his restless electricity suggesting that his paintings might not yet be achieved. The horse lunged ahead, his muscle tissues rippling with a power that regarded not possible to comprise. "Easy boy, it's all over now," Caleb murmured, looking to Constantine. But Onyx knew it wasn't over. He felt it in his bones. Without caution, the pony jerked hard, pulling at the reins with such pressure that the vintage leather snapped like dry paper. Caleb stumbled backward, touchdown tough at the ground. "Onyx," he shouted, watching helplessly as the horse charged toward one of the farthest hangars. The scene felt surreal, nearly like something out of a dream. Graham's calm but commanding voice broke via the moment. "Let him move," he said, his phrases laced with a quiet self-assurance that nobody questioned. Onyx galloped with a purpose, as though guided through an unseen force. His pace never faltered, his moves as planned as they were urgent. As he approached the hangar, he skidded to an abrupt stop, his hooves scraping in opposition to the concrete. The horse reared lower back, letting out a pointy resounding neigh that appeared to reduce via the thick night air. Graham and the security group accompanied at a careful distance, their steps hesitant. Caleb, his heart pounding, ran as rapid as his legs could carry him, but he changed into two a long way at the back of to seize up. By the time they all arrived, the sight earlier than them appeared to freeze time itself.